Next up, the CarBuyer Advisor, your first place to turn for everything automotive. Taking a stand for consumer education and dedicated to connecting you with the industry's finest automotive products, services, and advice. And now, please welcome the CarBuyer Advisor.
Now, unless you drive around in a glass bubble, eventually your car is bound to need some tender loving care. Was it a scuffle with a shopping cart, an overloaded gravel truck, a sandstorm? Did you get a little too close to a post? Did someone back into you? Get into a fender bender? Whatever it is, your heart just sank to your toes. When you decide to fix it, you'll want to find someone that cares about your car as much as you do. Someone that can restore your car to its original beauty. Unless you use this type of business on a regular basis, which one do you call? In today's economy, who's going to do it reasonably and properly? Maybe you've held off because you think it'll cost too much. Well, here's where we come in. In the case of our next guest, we have used his business not just once or twice, but over a period of several years, 100 or more times. We've also used during our decades in the retail automotive business, the competition hundreds of times, and can say, if you want it done right, if you want it done by someone that stands behind their work and you want it done reasonably, then you want it done by our next guest. Please welcome back to our show, Mike Shula, owner of Performance Coatings Auto Body. And Mike, thanks for agreeing to come back on our show.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for having me again.
Before we begin, I just want to share this with our audience. This is what precipitated the request to ask you to come back. One of our preferred businesses also turned to our preferred business listings on our website, found you, and they recently took a truck bed to you for repair. And you might not have known this, but that automotive business owner I'm referring to was originally schooled in body repairs. They chose mechanical repair as their ultimate field, but what really makes me excited to share this is the individual went to your shop during the repairs to watch the progress, knows exactly what should be happening, and was so impressed by your prep work that he commented to me on it. And for those of you that don't understand what that means to the final product, Mike, please share with them why this is quite possibly the most critical part of your profession.
Yeah, that's true. Doing all the prep work is the most important part, I think. I guess the best way for the listeners as an analogy is it's kind of like a house. You know, your foundation on a house is the most important part, as is the body man who does the work. And as you're putting that last coat of clear on, you can see any imperfections that may happen through that. So it's important that you do the body work right, the prep work. All the different stages are very, very important. So your finished product is directly resident from what you started with in the very beginning.
Well, it's really interesting because you were talking to me earlier about the foundation of a skyscraper. You know, if it's not sunk properly, then a wind will blow it over.
That's true. It doesn't matter what the brickwork or the stucco or the paintwork that's on top of it. If the foundation isn't done first the right way, then it doesn't really matter.
And it's every step of the way that attention to detail has to be present for the real ultimate quality to come out. And for those of you that may have not had the opportunity to listen to Mike's prior interview, share with them some of your core fundamental values and beliefs. What drives you as an individual to be the standard in your field?
You know, I think what is really important to me is caring about the customer. That's always been number one for us. You know, I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to know that the work that they get is going to be done right. And I want them to know that there's going to be a guarantee as well. So along with that, I don't know if, I guess anybody who hasn't actually seen the work in the automotive industry or any of the cars that we've done or heard from anything, my wife at Sports West Athletic Club, as you know, I built that day spa for her, for men and women. And if anybody ever goes in there and sees the rock work that we did, the finish work on the wood, any of that kind of stuff, what I did is I took that workmanship and carried it over to the body shop aspect of it, and that's how we built our business, and it's done really well.
Well, and you could have made that your calling in life, but what I think is really interesting is you just said it. People that are committed, that are devoted to excellence, they can do they do that with everything that they put their heart into. They can't do anything without doing it the best that they know how. And you talked a lot about before with me how important it is to you because your family has got such a long history in this community, why that reputation means so much to you, and you were telling me how it came from your childhood even.
Oh yeah, that's true. But more important, also in addition to that, is that it's a small town. Your reputation's based on, all you have is your word and the work that you put out. And I've got a family here, and I've got 4 kids, and safety is one of the most important things that I have. That I think that every time I do a car, I just think of it. It's my own.
Well, and we're going to get to the safety part of that because you really had something to say about that, and I will get back to that in a minute. But we were also talking recently how it all starts at the top, and in most businesses, the most common traits of a quality business like yours is they use the finest materials, they attract some of the most qualified employees, and you're no exception, starting with the fact that you shared with me you use one of the most expensive paints, and you were telling me that about your warranty on your repairs and why you can offer such an extensive one. And tell our listeners a little bit about that.
We offer a good guarantee just because like you said, the quality of the paint that we use. It's a high-end DuPont, and every shop has the option of doing something that's you have cheaper lines, you have mediocre lines, and you've got the high-end lines. And as we talked about, prep work and quality, if you want the quality to turn out consistently, you have to use high-end materials. And so that's one of the decisions that we chose early on.
And employees too. I mean, now you've amassed a team of some of the finest body people in our local community, and I can say that because I've seen the standard of the work.
Right.
Remember, I ran a high-line exotic dealership, so you did Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and the quality. And I don't want that to scare some of our listeners off because your prices weren't reflective of the car you were working on at all.
That's true. I mean, that was one of the things that we had to do. We had to break into that market. We had to do really good work, and we had to do it at a discount. And and thanks to you, you helped me get started. You brought me our first customer, which was a gentleman here in town, and our Bentley was the very first car that we did. And because of his perfection of how he was and about how meticulous he was about his car, and that really set the tone for the rest of all the cars that we did from that point on out.
Well, and I was the sole buyer for a Highline exotic dealer here in town for years. What troubles me the most is the average consumer only looks at the surface of body repairs. And we were just starting to talk about this a minute ago. They see the shiny paint, but it's underneath that is 1,000 times more important. And we were talking this, and it struck a chord with you because you were talking about how their safety depends on this part of the process.
Right. A lot of times, we get damaged vehicles that come in. And one of the most important things that I think that are in our shop is the safety aspect. Safety comes first. And anytime you're putting a car together, it doesn't matter how good it looks on the outside. For me, it matters what's done on the inside. And that's also with the workmanship that we have with our guys. I specifically chose guys that care. And I think that's half the battle. If you can find men that care about what they do and about other people, then I think that as a team is what performance coatings is all about.
Well, and I mentioned that starts with an owner that cares, and then the employees feel that they see that you take pride in it, and then they start to take pride in it. And we even talked about this earlier that employees, really want more than just money. They really the personal reward and being recognized for a job well done, and you really you do that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Now, I hope you don't mind if I share this, but it's always been my opinion that all businesses will ultimately have a failure. It's who they are in this light that defines them as a business. Do they act with intent? Do they act with velocity and integrity? Do they handle it as a genetic response to do the right thing? When it comes to this standard, you are all of that. And I love to tell this story because one time, and keep in mind, our dealership sent Mike dozens and dozens, I'd guess 100 or more cars over a several-year period. But you called me one time and asked for additional time to redo a bumper. And I don't even know if you remember this, but I not only do, I tell this story a lot. I went to your shop to look at it, and I still have to laugh because I would have never seen it. You made me get down on one knee to look underneath the bumper to see a spot in the paint that bothered you. And I said, it didn't bother me. It was fine. And you said, no, when it leaves here, it has to be to my standard because it's my name on the work. And if anybody sees it, and it's not right. It's my reputation. You asked me for the time to redo it to your satisfaction, and I obliged you. But that example is what it really means to be committed to excellence, and it's no wonder you're growing regardless of uncertain economic times. If they want to get an estimate for repairs, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can go ahead and reach me. We have a website, performancecoatingautobody.com, and 829-8181 is the phone number. And you're more than welcome to come by and give me a call for anything.
Well, and he works there every day, and that's also an interesting thing. You'll see him. I was just in his shop last week, and he was doing some of the finish work. I was like, you've got this whole group of employees to do it, and he has his hand on the pulse, and he's involved in that quality. You'll see him working on your car through the process at one point or another, and he's qualified and well-trained in those areas as well. Mike Schulo, one of the finest business owners you'll ever meet. It's an honor to have you on our show again. Performance Coatings Auto Body. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.